You know the heaviest weight in every gym? Not the barbell, not the squat rack. It's the door. Getting through that door is often harder than lifting anything inside. Not because the gym is difficult, but because your brain prefers something else, the familiar. The brain loves patterns. In the last episode, we asked a question. If being wrong helps the brain learn, why do humans try so hard to avoid being wrong? Why does the brain pull us back to the same behaviors again and again? Before answering that question directly, we need to understand something fundamental. Why behavior patterns exist in the first place. Your brain runs patterns because it must predict the world efficiently, not analyze it from scratch. The human brain runs in two different modes. Of course, the real brain is much more complex than just two systems. But for now, this simple model helps us understand how habits form. One is the conscious mind. This is the part that pays attention, analyzes situations, and tries to find the best solution. It asks questions like, what is happening? What is the safest decision? What should I do next? This system relies heavily on the prefrontal cortex. But there is a problem. This type of thinking is slow, and it consumes a lot of energy. This system only steps in when predictions fail. Your brain is already the most energy-hungry organ in your body. If it had to analyze every detail of every moment, it would exhaust itself very quickly. Imagine looking at a tree. If your conscious mind had to examine every leaf separately, count them, measure them, analyze their color, your reaction time would become extremely slow. You would not be able to function in real time. And most of that effort would be unnecessary. So the brain has a second mode, the autopilot. The autopilot runs most of the time, roughly 90% of your day. Instead of analyzing everything from scratch, it uses past experience to make fast predictions. It assumes that what is happening now is probably similar to what happened a moment ago. So it fills in the details automatically. In other words, you are often not seeing the world exactly as it is. You are seeing what the autopilot predicts it to be, and it only corrects itself when those predictions break. The autopilot has one main job: run the prediction machine. It keeps the body moving, repeating familiar behaviors, and following established patterns. And it stays quiet most of the time. But it constantly watches for one thing: prediction errors. If something unexpected happens, something that does not match the prediction, the autopilot immediately alerts the conscious mind. That is when your attention suddenly turns on. That is when the conscious mind says, something is different, pay attention. This is why habits exist. Habits are not flaws in the brain. They are the autopilot's efficiency system. Without habits, every action in your day would require full attention. Walking, brushing your teeth, driving home, typing on a keyboard. Your conscious mind would quickly run out of energy. So habits are not the enemy. They are the reason the autopilot can function at all. Over time, the autopilot begins to collect small rules about the world. Habits form automatically over time. When we were children, we were curious about everything, and every new incident created a mental rule. Burning a finger, coming across a snake, or feeling safe with your parents. Every such rule eventually narrowed down our options. The brain stores these rules because they help it predict what might happen next. Imagine you live in a jungle. Every day you walk to a river to fetch water. There is a clear path through the forest. You have walked that path many times. Your autopilot trusts this path. There are no predators. The ground is safe. You can reach the river without danger. So the autopilot trusts this path. You can walk it without thinking. The autopilot runs the journey, because it has predicted this path correctly 1,000 times. Now imagine someone says, "Let's try a completely different path." Suddenly, the autopilot becomes cautious. What if there are snakes? What if there are predators? What if you get lost? To evaluate those risks, the conscious mind would have to simulate many possibilities. It has to recall all the rules it has learned so far to make sure no rule will be broken. That requires energy and attention. Doing this for every moment of the day would be extremely slow. So the autopilot suggests something simpler. Just take the path we already know. This is why behavior patterns become habits. A habit is simply a prediction the autopilot trusts. The outcome is familiar, and familiar means efficient. Now let's return to the gym door. Your conscious mind has already decided something. You want to be healthier. You want more energy. Maybe you even plan the long-term goal. This is the part of the conscious mind that thinks about the future. It is the same system that helps you plan things like a pension fund. But the autopilot that runs most of your daily behavior works very differently. The autopilot's duty is to live in the present, run the prediction machine, and report only when a prediction error occurs. It only cares about two things. Is this behavior familiar? And does it save energy for tomorrow? When you wake up in the morning, the autopilot checks its predictions. Yesterday you stayed home, drank coffee, skipped the gym. Those predictions worked. You survived. Nothing bad happened. So the autopilot says, repeat the same pattern. From its perspective, that is the safest option. Going to the gym is not difficult because the autopilot fears exercise. It feels difficult because you are asking it to leave a familiar path and create a new one. And the autopilot always prefers the path it already knows. Now we understand something important. The autopilot protects habits because they are efficient and predictable. Without habits, we would not survive. Habits are the default mode of the autopilot. Now you understand why habits override intentions, even if they are good intentions. Because intentions live in the conscious mind, but habits live in the autopilot. But this raises the real question. If the autopilot loves familiar patterns so much, how can we ever change them? The next episode.